there we could take some questions.
Here, I'll put them right here in the next 5 minutes. Sure. When the acid comes in a wheel, what Erica was talking about, right behind it, and your job is to pull and into the side. So you're basically trying to go
See the adults circling.
older people with bad knees in the front. You're kneeling long enough to for the banding. As part of the banding process, we're going to be drawing about 10 cc's of blood. It looks like a large amount. It's 1 tube full, and for their size, it's a small amount of what could safely be taken. So we'll take 10 cc's of blood, and we are doing that to collect different, hopefully run some studies down the future. Right now, most of it's getting banked because it all depends on availability of funding. So when we get funding, then this main samples or main tests that we're running is we want to look for environmental contaminants. As top of the food chain, the eagles are really good monitors for the environmental health because any kind of environmental toxins accumulate in them and in their food items and then in them eventually. So we're going to look for heavy metals, hopefully things like lead, mercury, arsen, accumulate in them and in their food items and then in them eventually. So we're going to look for heavy metals, hopefully things like lead, mercury, arsenic that are some naturally occurring in the environment, but also as man-made waste products. Pesticides, we still see remnants of DDT that's accumulated in the food chain. It's a very short half-life, or long half-life, so it stays around a while. PCBs, other environmental contaminants like that, pesticides and such. We are this year taking a small sample. At least one of the parents from this nest, and we have banked a sample from that bird, and so we're able to see the genetic connection. And then we take a very small test from that. We'll run what's called a packed cell volume in total solids, which just kind of gives us a little window of health on each bird.
Hold up, let's go.
Okay, it's got nothing going on. It's getting tricky up there. we get our blood sample taken, we'll do some measurements on the bird. The measurements, even at this age, will be able to tell us whether it's a male or a female.
Okay.
And then we'll, once the measurements are done, we'll put bands on the bird. So they'll each get a permanent ID band. One is a federal band, which has a unique number. As you can see, this number can't be read very well at a distance, even though it's pretty big, but being one color and a long string of numbers, it's difficult to read. But that is a permanent ID, so if that bird's ever recovered, we'll know exactly who it is. We'll also have permission measurements. It's been long tried and true studies. We can get pretty accurate on the measurements. This year, because we are doing the genetics testing, we are able to sex them as well through that blood sample. So we'll have a definite confirmation once we get those results back. But that testing is quite expensive. And if we do get any funding for testing, we would rather have it go to environmental contaminants than for determining gender. But, you know, like I said, this case, we have a researcher who's doing the genetics for no cost to us as part of his research grant. So.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah.
Okay.
The tag team in you.
That's right.
Do they mate?
Oh, mate for life. Actually, yeah, they, like most birds, well, at least a large number of bird species, they do mate for life, which means until something happens to one of them.
Right.
They don't then. Actually, I think eagles go through a very short mourning period, if anything, because we've seen an adult at one nest get killed or have something happen to it, and within 48 hours usually there's another eagle there, which in a way is a great testimony to the number of birds we have in New Jersey, that we now have birds that are kind of waiting in the wings for an available nest. Yeah, there's still a lot of them.
Sort of worked with Mandy last year.
Oh yeah, I met her a couple times.
She got to live at Western Battalion, so there's an osprey nest. Right next to the little cabin she stayed in. So she got to see the place.
Yeah, nice girl.
The last 20 years, she made fun of me for taking pictures of my old bird. Not really, but
Grown up enough.
There's about 900 people watching right now. This one. All right, another question came in. So what's the potential here for birds hopping out of the nest when he's up there?
Fortunately, in this situation, it's pretty low. We are quite certain because of the cameras. We know just when these birds hatched. We know they're right about 6 weeks age. They are not very likely to jump out of the nest at this age. This age, instinct is maybe back up a little, but mostly freeze. And so they won't fight much. They're going to hunker down to blend in with the nest. That's why they're the nice uniform brown color. Blend in with that nest, let the predator think you're not there.
It's a little older, closer to fledging, it'd be a little more dangerous.
Yes, and we have, when we put radio telemetry devices on the birds, now and then we'll have to fit them when they're a little bit older, so that, because we use external harnesses like that they wear, and it's like a backpack, and you have to be big enough because you don't want to grow into the backpack and have it be too tight. So we wait until they're almost full size, and at that point they're capable of jumping out. They're a little bit more skittish, they're moving around a lot more, so we get into the nest and it's always a little risky. We have had, over the last 21 years, I can think of 3 or 4 that we've had jump, never had an injury, because usually at the time they're old enough to jump, they also have enough flight feathers that they just instinctively put their wings out and they glide softly to the ground. And then once they're on the ground, they're like, how did I get here? What do I do? And so we're able to get to them. So.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and hold on to them, let them calm down a little bit. We'll do the full physical exam on them, make sure they didn't injure themselves in coming down. Go ahead and band them and then get them back up.
Is there any technology that's like injectable at this point, like where we microchip our pets? Is there anything like that you do?
There is. We don't do it. There's a little thing